Hello and welcome back to the channel. This time, as you see in my screen, we're gonna go through Abaddon and learn pretty much how to lay Abaddon in the laning stage. Okay, Abaddon is probably one of the strongest heroes in the laning stage. He's really strong. In my mind, he's similar to Undying, a lane dominator, a hero that can definitely even win 1v2 lanes, right? He's that strong and definitely a really strong hero in the mid game. Aphotic Shield, really strong. His coil heal really strong, his ultimate insane, and his passive is also really good for sieging and early on for harassing. Abaddon, in my mind, is a perfect hero to gain MMR if you're actually low rank. Hi, my name is Jeff. I'm a 6K player in the Europe region, and what we actually do in this channel is we go through support heroes, at least for now, and we go through replays, and we go through a lot of laning stages to actually learn how to lane as supports properly and give our carries, or position 3, depends on the hero, the best possible win conditions for them to carry us.
Moving up and down, side to side like a roller coaster.
Let us start, and as usual, what we're gonna do is explain a little bit the hero fundamentally and go a little bit through lane understanding. So Abaddon is quite versatile as a hero. What does it mean? That means he can actually be approached with 3 different ways. The first one and the most, the best one scenario is when you get to play with a support that, you can just run down. For example, Jakiro, right? And you get usually Orb of Venom. If if we've seen other guys like Undying or Dawnbreaker or Pudge, usually we start this Orb of Venom because Abaddon, just like Pudge, Dawnbreaker, and Undying, is high damage, high health, high movement hero that can just run heroes down. And there are not many heroes that can, fight you back. So if you feel like if the other support cannot fight you back, for example, Jakiro, what you want to do is run him down. Now, Jakiro, for example, can use Dual Breath, and so we're gonna go level 1 Aphotic Shield, so we can just run them down, right? And the fact that you usually play the hero as a position 5 and not as position 4 is because there is so much space for you and so much room for you to chase the enemy until the enemy tower, so we won't abuse this space, and that's why I prefer Abaddon in the position 5 role. Of course, we're gonna show some position 4 examples, right? Now, this is the first scenario where if there is some spell like that, you want to actually remove it with a Aphotic Shield. Now, the second scenario is if you get to play with a versus hero like Ancient Apparition, Wyvern, heroes that can't really don't really have this long-term dot or debuff, and you can just run them down. For example, if there is Ancient Apparition here, summon hero, and there is no way he can just fight you back. You just run him down, and look at that. It's so hard for you, and imagine the tower being here. It's so hard for the enemy to actually do something about that, right? And of course, the problem with Abaddon is that you don't really want to kill them. Ideally, you do. What you want to do is throw them out of the lane, right? Just like Undying. It's like, in my mind, he's the closest thing to Undying, right? So that's the second way to approach a hero. The first one is the Aphotic Shield, and then you can get to choose, right? Usually if you go Aphotic Shield, then you go for Curse of Avernus, right? For example, Jakiro. Because right now you can't even do Dual Breath because you're just gonna remove it and keep harassing him. And the third way is if you get to play versus a Morphling, with a Morphling, maybe a Void, something that's not really that strong early on, then you usually go Mist Coil, right? Now, usually you go Mist Coil, not with the lane partner that you have, rather than with what you will face. What do I mean? If you get to play versus 2 heroes that are constantly combined, for example, Wisp, right? You will rarely find Wisp alone, and it's so hard for you to deal with the whole creep wave and 2 heroes attacking you. So it's so hard for you, even for Undying, for example, like maybe for Undying not, but it's so hard, for example, to deal with Wisp and the position 3 on top of you and the whole creep wave, right? So that's why usually you don't really go for passive and Turbo Venom, and maybe you just go for a Aphotic Shield level 1 and maybe Mist Coil level 2. Because usually what we want to do, if you've seen other guides as well, is to actually isolate the position 4 and just do as much damage as possible, throw him out of the lane, create a 2v1 scenario, and then deal with the position 3. This is what you want to do usually with the position 5, right? Now, though if you place with something like a Brewmaster and Hoodwink, right? It's so hard to actually, because these heroes combine together, and at the same time, no matter how fast you are, you will really struggle to actually find Hoodwink, for example. He can just disengage whenever you want. It's one of the worst heroes generally if you play Abaddon, at least in the laning stage. But we're gonna show more examples and you'll actually figure out how to play Abaddon. Now, what I want to do is talk about the strengths and the weakness of Abaddon. In the mid game, Abaddon is probably the simplest hero in the game. Follow the hero that's gonna create space. That can be, usually that's your offlaner, or if you have some kind of high tempo mid laner, Ember Spirit, right? And just shield them and heal them. Simple as that, right? Now, if you get to play versus a Bane, AA, something that you generally, you can just counter his spells. AA, you don't counter his ultimate, but Aphotic Shield actually absorbs damage, so he will not actually proc, right? And versus Jakiro versus Silencer, but if he uses global, you might, need to go Loadstorm first item. If you play versus this type of heroes, then, you make sure that you want to keep your shield for the hero that most likely they're gonna, going to lock down. For example, if you have a pack and they have a Bane, and you need to be prepared to actually use Aphotic Shield on your pack. Makes a lot of sense, right? It's quite simple. So you don't really want to use a Aphotic Shield, right? Now, Abaddon actually has weaknesses. He loves fighting. He loves, because he's insane. He has insane heal, insane actually absorb. He can, hard dispel most things. He's really annoying to play against because he can actually, it's so hard to deal with. He's so hard to kill. But what he actually loves is actually lineups that fight. But there are actually lineups that don't really fight. What do I mean? Tinker, Hedges, Pack. For example, if you play versus Pack, you hate a lot to, he gets boots of travel and it's so hard for you to catch him. Actually, you can't really catch him, right? The problem with Abaddon is that he actually reacts to what's happening throughout the whole game, and he doesn't actually make something on his own. He's not really gonna gank, he's not really gonna Ghostmark. He's like, hey guys, do something, I'm gonna be, I'm gonna back up you, okay? So if you get to play versus a really heavy split push lineup, for example, Naga, right? And Naga actually never shows up and constantly split push, Abaddon feels kind of useless, okay? The last thing that I want to talk is itemization. The first item that you want to get 9 out of 10 times is Eidolons, right? Eidolons is really strong. If you're playing from ahead, you can just go for Butch into Arcane Butch, and then you can just get your Eidolons. From there, you can just go Force Staff, Glimmer, Lotus, depends on what you want. For example, you play versus Silencer, you need Lotus or Greaves to remove Silence, and then you can just dispel the rest of the team. I find Ags to be really good, but it's quite expensive, but I really find really useful. So usually, I like the Eidolons into Holy Locket, into Aghanim's, and then you just get Mist Coil, and I think it's really good. And if you play from behind, don't go for Arcane Boots, get your Triangle, get your Wand, get your Windlace, and then, slowly and steadily you will get there. Because I'm saying that because Triangle Boots is actually gonna solve your health regen issue. I think Triangle Boots are really good as an item, right? Now, generally, Shard is also really good. Shard in my mind is like an Octarine, a really budget Octarine. I think it's great, because Abaddon already has small cooldowns. Let's say unlike Omni Knight, Abaddon has a lot of small cooldowns, and Shard actually reduces them even more. So I think it's a great item, even to you can just take it after Eidolons. So yeah, let's actually go start explaining laning stages, approach laning stages, and talk a little bit about them. So let's jump into that. All right, let us start. And this example number 1, I'm gonna play in position 5 Abaddon, and I have a Terrorblade with me. That's generally a really good duo, and it's quite simple. Abaddon, just like Undying, loves a hero that can close the gap between him and the enemies. And Terrorblade has actually this spell, it's called Reflection, right? It just throws them on the enemies, and Abaddon with the Orb of Venom can just pew the opponents, right? On top of that, this is a great Abaddon game. I can remove Suckle, I can remove Dual Breath, I can remove Ignite. If Doom actually, if Doom is being used to one of my cores, I can actually heal a lot, so he might not die. And of course, I get to play with the Terrorblade, and I love Terrorblade with Abaddon because I know that if I fully commit on Terrorblade from the laning stage through the end of the game, he is going to carry me, hopefully, right? Carry players are not actually the most reliable players, right? So, we try to find first blood here, trying to find the ward, nothing to say here, and actually the laning stage starts, right? So let's back into that and look what's going on here. Ideally, because I get to play with the Doom and the Wind Ranger, these are heroes that I'm not really afraid of. I'm pretty sure with a Aphotic Shield, I can 1v2 them, right? Because they don't really have a lot of damage to deal. I mean, Doom doesn't really have a lot to work with. And Wind Ranger is like a little bit of weak early on, even though she scales great with levels, right? So the moment I got Ignite, I'm like, you know, there's no way, you know. Ideally versus Wind Ranger is one of the heroes that, you know, I can get to use Curse of Avernus and run him down level 1. And if I force him to get, for example, Wind Run, okay, if I force him to get Wind Run, I can still run him down because Wind Run is just 3 seconds. He's probably, you know, he's probably gonna, you know, fool around with me. And once Wind Run is run and I land the first hit, he can't actually escape. Anyway, and I think it's a really cool game because I start with literally the worst possible start, which is to use myself, right? So, the game starts and look what I'm gonna do. I'm not strong enough to 1v2 them, but if I have a shield with me, I can 1v2 them. And of course, shield, look at that. It's like an AoE damage. Like, I don't mind using that, and the moment it pops, like a Crystal Maiden, Crystal Nova, for example, right? The moment it pops, look at that. I disengage, right? I disengage, I'm like, okay, that's cool. What I'm gonna do is wait for my next Aphotic Shield. Okay, of course, extra regen. Why extra regen? Because my main source of damage is actually right click, right? Is right click, not Aphotic Shield, right click, right? Look at that. This, I really want to show you that. My courier dies, but honestly, I don't really mind. You can actually tell that this is a bait because look at that. I hit him, and look how many right clicks. This is a fine matchup for me now, right? Because ideally, I want my level 2. You know that we're usually going for level 2 power spike and then just force your opponents. But I don't mind doing that because look so much, like, look how much value I get, right? This guy's out of here, and all of a sudden, my Turblade has a really good time. So does Doom, but I'm pretty sure that the moment I get level 2, we're gonna steamroll them because Doom cannot fight me back. He has no spells, and also he has no right click. Similar, for example, to Sun King, that, you know, he can't really fight you back. With right click, but at least he has spells. And Doom, you know, I mean, Scorched is like not the greatest spell early on. If it's level 5, you know, I'm gonna show numbers. If it's level 5, that's actually quite some damage, right? But just because it's not direct damage, it's long-term damage. It takes way more time, and by the time we actually start hitting him, you know, he has to back off, and we're actually getting a favorable trade. Getting right clicks, and of course, what I want to do is wait for my level 2, and of course, like Dawnbreaker, 2 mangoes, of course, so we can actually have shields. I'm using Salve here. Why do I use Salve here? Because I feel like I want to be full HP, because if I'm half HP, I can't really bully them. They can bully me back and probably find kill, right? So I'm like, okay, maybe using Salve, of course, Crystal Maiden is, Wind Ranger is a genius. I'm like, okay, now I have my level 2 and really look what's going on. I really want you to show that. Range creep dies, and I'm like, okay, we're level 2. This is level 1. What does it mean? We have 4 spells, they have 3 spells. What does this mean for us? Look at that. I'm like, go. Sealed, and they can't really fight me back. And then, look at that, this guy. Choop. I'm literally low health, and I'm like, I have the luxury of not only committing to one target, but even with low health, I'm like, okay, I'm having enough health. Look at that. I'm having 200 HP. I'm like, I'm starting the fight with no mana, no HP. I'm like, okay, I can deal with you as well, you know, easy. This is how strong the hero is. And of course, we give first world Turblade, otherwise he's gonna cry, right? Is the laning stage over? No. What does this mean for us? More consumables. Do the same thing again and again. And of course, our best friend, single pull. If you have this type of heroes, we love single pulls, so we can actually bring the lane back to the original state, and we can actually abuse all the space up to the enemy tier 1. Let's go back to see that again. Look at that. Do you see? Do you see my health? Like, I really want you to show that. I'm so strong right now. It's insane. It's insane. I really want you to see that again. You know, go back to the video and actually see that again. And of course, what I'm going to do is actually suicide. If you want to suicide, guys, please go to tier 2. Don't go to tier 1s here or here or here, because I've done this mistake in the past. And I gave level 6 to Invoker, if I recall, and like it was like pretty bad for me. Anyway, going back to the lane, what we're gonna do, you know, instant shield, you know, actually make the most out of the fountain. And look at that. He uses Wind Run, you know, giving the items to my core. And do you see the problem right now? I really want you to show why Abaddon is not a position 4. Look at that. I'm actually trying to trade. I'm like, okay, that's going good, you know, I can actually deal damage. And then tier 1. I'm like, okay, I can't really go further, you know? So ideally, this is why we want the creep wave to be under our tower, so we can actually run the enemies down. Okay, of course, single pull. I'm actually not being allowed to do that, and I tried to create a 2v1 scenario, and look at that. I really want you to show that. I really want to pre-actively use shield, and I'm like, okay, level 2 shield, because sometimes you might go coil. In rare cases where you're out of mana and you have no cooldowns, you might go level 2 Curse of Avernus, but ideally you want to go level 2 Aphotic Shield because it's the most value for mana spell. And of course, I use Aphotic Shield and I just run the Doom down. And then Wind Ranger comes. I'm like, okay, don't care. I can bully with you. And look at that. I really want you to show that because this is what I mean. And Wind Ranger is like Weaver. Look at that. Hit. I'm like, oh, I can't hit you. And then shield. And shit. Wind run ended. I'm just running you down. Hit, 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 hit. And look at that. If you use a Aphotic Shield on yourself while you have a Aphotic Shield, the previous Aphotic Shield pops. And perfect. What does this mean for us? Doom is alone. Chase Doom. Right? Like, you have no break when you're in position 5, right? Try to run them down. We need to justify the existence. And ideally, I should probably stack that. I'm like, okay, just harass this guy. Okay, let's go back a little bit to see that. I force a wind run. I'm like, okay, look at that. This guy's overextended. TP is out. I really want to show, like, this is insane right now, okay? And this guy also is out of position, and we just try, like, if I see networks, like, we're doing actually really good versus a Doom, right? Like, Doom, honestly, not the strongest laner, but for all I know, that could be a center. That could be a something, you know, it's the same thing, but you just have to understand where you can just get away with harassing, even with low health, and when you cannot, right? So, for example, look at that. I'm using a Aphotic Shield. I probably should have done it myself, but I'm like, okay, I really don't want to commit. I might as well, you know, allow the Choreblade to commit. And right now, I feel like the laning stage is like, honestly, really strong. I'm gonna show a little bit more, right? I'm gonna deny the mid laner rune, and the fact that I'm just going so cocky is because it is Zakiro mid. I'm like, he can never kill me, you know. I might as well, you know, maybe we can just go, you know. And I think at some point I just fucked up, you know. I think you could just use ulti. Anyway, using a Aphotic Shield. Look at that. Using a Aphotic Shield proactively, because I'm like, okay, maybe I just go bot. I find Wind Ranger here. What does this mean for us as well? Doom is alone. We just run down Doom. Look at that. I have no mana, no health, and look at that. I just run him down. Honestly, just at this moment the laning stage is over, right? Honestly, just over, and it shows how strong the hero is, even with right click, with the Orb of Venom, Curse of Avernus. You know, at this moment there is nothing more for us to see. So let's jump to another example where, you know, we actually, you know, Abaddon is a lane dominator. Most likely you're going to win the lane. But there are, you know, unlike Undying, there are lanes that you need to just approach the lane differently. So without wasting time, let's jump into that. Okay, that's the example number 2 where we get to play Abaddon and we have a PL, right? And what we're going to face is a Grimstroke and the Snapfire. Now, if you don't know this Beastmaster versus PL, generally, the whole idea is for PL is to get the level 6 before Beastmaster and then just lost to the jungle. It's really rough as a matchup. PL don't really have a lot of tools to actually deal with a Beastmaster, and of course Snapfire, he has a cookie, he has a little shredder, or he can just go for Scatterblast. Generally a lot of damage. So yeah, laning stage starts, and my plan is to, you know, try to, you know, absorb as much attention as I can away from the PL, so you can actually get the level 6 before the Beastmaster, right? So in my mind, I'm gonna be as sacrificial as possible for PL, so you can get to level 6 and start. For example, I don't really think we have a kill potential, even though it did happen in the lane. I don't really feel I have kill potential, but whenever I'm gonna be able to find favorable trades like this one, right, I'm gonna go for that. I'm just getting a lot of right clicks, and of course I get to go for Windlace. The reason why I go for Windlace is because the way to deal with Beastmaster is to actually chase down the boars, and I don't think, you know, Orb of Venom is gonna help me a lot. I think a little bit of a movement, extra movement is gonna help me a lot. because I can actually chase them down and disengage at the same time, you know, because it gives me movement speed. So you see that I use shield all the time. I'm like, okay, time to kill boars, you know. And I'm like, okay, boars. I don't really care about Beastmasters. If I shut down the boars early on, Beastmaster is not really that strong. And look at that. I use again the second aphotic shield. I'm like, okay, time to disengage. I get a little bit cornered. Hopefully, I juke them a little bit here. And yeah, I'm just keep. If you see, what I'm gonna do is like, okay, I use aphotic shield because if you use shield and you have some kind of clarity, you see how it didn't actually proc my clarity, so I can actually harass, and you know it's gonna keep going a little bit. And I harass as much as I can. Meanwhile, my PL is farming, right? Harass. Okay, I'm like, okay, boar. Of course, mangoes. I need instant mana. Because I need instant shield. And then that's my game plan. Level 2, of course, I'm not even dealing with the Beastmaster. I'm like, can I just kill the boar? Because if I don't kill the boar, I'm just gonna get slowed to death. Killing the boar, disengage. Meanwhile, my PL is just farming, right? You see how I create space, and I don't really mind, you know. I like in my mind the lane is going incredible, right? What we're gonna do, sip more tangos, sip more mangoes, right? Find favorable trades. I'm like, look at that. I'm like, okay, that's good. That's a lot of right clicks. Okay, this guy's out. Let's go to Beastmaster right now. And this is how you, all the time you try to find 2v1 scenarios that you need to create as position 5. Look at that. And I really want you to show that. Harass, look at that. I'm like, okay, this guy is killable, right? Just run him down. Attack, move. And then my PL just finished the job. Simple as that. I'm like, okay, getting right clicks. What we're gonna do, single pull. In my mind, what we don't really want to do is grab XP from PL. So I'm like, okay, I need to throw Snapfire, right? I really don't want to grab XP from my PL. I want him to get level 6 and get out of here. The fact that we got a kill doesn't really mean anything. Even though it gives us a lot of boost and confidence, that doesn't mean anything, because the more levels they get, the harder the lane is going to become, because both Beastmaster and Snapfire scales great with levels. Abaddon scales good. Yeah, doesn't really scale that great in terms of lane domination. You know, he scales good in terms of farming. Stacking here. And of course, why do I want to stack and not single pull here, for example? It's a really long-term plan. It's because I want to deny a whole creep wave. So we're going to have an extra creep wave. So I want my PL to get level 6 before Beastmaster, because if Beastmaster gets level 6, he's going to roar him and he's going to die. And if we see that Beastmaster is level 6 and my PL is level 5, PL still has to go to jungle, and it is so inefficient. Okay? And of course, what I do, let's go back a little bit. Stacking, again, dealing with the boar, and you see like the same formula again and again, right? And right now, juking a little bit, creating space, and you see how I just use a Aphotic Shield, and the Aphotic Shield here is for damage. I use myself, and I buy more consumables. And the good thing about Abaddon is that you don't really care about being too sacrificial, because you don't really need any items. If you have Etherlands, that's good, but worst case scenario, what they're gonna do, like, kill you and you're like gonna fit in the mid game? No, you don't. You have like ultimate, okay? So you can always borrow time, and you know, if they commit on you, you have 5, 6, 7 seconds. Even though, make sure that you will not waste your ultimate, because then you will become a target. And yeah, if you see I'm just trading, try to deal with the boar. I'm like, okay, I die here, but I'm gonna tell you something. It's okay, right? Because if you see, let's go back a little bit. This is a fine death, and the reason why this is a fine death is because he actually, you know, waste a lot of resources. They get a lot of damage, right? You know, they waste a lot of time. In the end, what it matters is my PL net worth and the Beastmaster net worth, and you see the difference right now, right? The fact that he got a kill and a little bit of XP, yeah, it is bad. Ideally, don't want to die, and probably I actually want to die because I'm out of mana, out of health. Like, if I'm not, like, if I don't die here, in theory I'm dead, and I might as well say it's even worse, you know? Refilling the mid lane, running back top, right? And look at the Snapfire. I'm like, okay, that's a good opportunity to be useful, right? Stacking, denying a whole creep wave, this is super important in terms of experience for my PL. And then look at this guy. I'm like, okay, I'm full mana, full HP, let's fight. Disengaging a little bit. Why disengaging a little bit here? Because look at my cooldown on shield. I don't really feel comfortable, you know. This happens. I'm like, okay. PL level 5, our goal is almost complete. Snapfire is like low HP, okay, that's cool. Look at that, right click. He tries to juke me, but I have a ward, so I'm like, that's good, that's good. I get the boot. I'm going for triangle boots. We said it in the very beginning. Why do I go for triangle boots? I don't really feel like it's a great Everlane game. It's like always you want to go Everlane. It's like 9 out of 10 times. The problem is like I just don't feel like I have too much money, right, to get these arcane boots. I'm like, okay, you see how low I am, and for example, triangle boots, if I had triangle boots right now, it would be great as an item, right? Because it would solve my health regen issues that I have right now. But I decided to get Assault for my PL, right? Because he's not level 6 yet. And you see how I'm just going away, like leaving. And the moment PL is level 6, which is like pretty close, I'm like, okay, my job here is done. And you see the same formula, quite sacrificial, finding favorable trades. Killing the board, and I think at this moment, I want to say confidently that the laning stage is won. My PL is like 1k ahead, but I really want to show a little bit more, right? I get to die, means nothing. My PL is level 6, and at this point, maybe we can actually force Beastmaster. And I really want to show like what's gonna happen right now. Like I actually remember this day because we had 3 Queen of Pain in the mid lane. All 3 actually ganked my safe laner, and they actually killed him. And this was the only time that he was prepared for that. So good for UPL. And if you see what's going on right now, we are already in the mid game, right? So yeah, like see, I'm already in the mid game, and my job is to actually, you know, chill and actually use shields, right? And yeah, like I really want to show that I actually die here, I think, as well. And I really want you to show that it doesn't really matter if you get to play a hero like Abaddon, because you will never lose, like you don't scale necessarily with gold. And no matter how you know strong they are, this is a good Abaddon game, because you know roar, it can't really roar because I can just get to a photic shield anyone. And if for example I get, let's say I get global, that is a problem. So I might as well go for something like a Lodesorb first item, which actually I feel like I can't recall, but I feel like I went Abaddon to Lodesorb. Okay, maybe actually I should have gone for Lodesorb now that I think about it, because I get to play versus global, right? So yeah, like in global they can just roar in global, and that's a problem for me because I can't get to shield. So let's jump into another example where the laning stage actually we didn't actually win it, because I feel like this laning stage, even though I died 3 times, like net worth wise, we're doing so good, right? So let's go into another example, a really rough game, but yeah, let's jump into that. Okay, let us start. And in this game I have Abaddon again, position 5, and I have a Void with me. That lane is not that bad, you know. We have actually time dilation to slow, and maybe we can just run them down, and we get to face a Crobelus, a Death Prophet, with a Wisp. Now, if you think about it, in all the previous matches, I actually got a lot of right clicks to the enemy position 4. But if you think Wisp is not really the type of hero that's gonna be solo somewhere in the jungle, right? Usually it's gonna be somewhere like connected with core. Now, I didn't really know what I'm gonna face. You know, maybe it was a patch position 4 and the death prophet. We didn't really know what's going on. Maybe Weaver, so I didn't really buy items. So I'm like, okay, maybe if it's a Weaver, I can just run him down and just like Wind Run. The moment he doesn't have Shukuchi, maybe get some 4 right clicks with Curse of Avernus and get a lot of right clicks on the enemy. And you know, now that I know, I feel like what I'm gonna do is stack get a stick, because Wisp is gonna use a lot of tethers. You know, he can actually use a lot of tethers, and Death Prophet is definitely a hero that's going to use a lot of spells as well, right? Now, this is a lane that obviously it's so hard for us to actually run down the Death Prophet, especially with the Wisp. And so in my mind, you know, we just need to survive here. This is so hard for us to win. Like, even if we get level 2, it's just impossible, right? We're just gonna get right-clicked so hard. And if you think about it, what is Void's worst nightmare? Like, what does he struggle against in the laning stage? And that means a lot of right-clicks, and generally the type of harass that he just hesitates to use Time Walk. So, for example, Venomancer is a great hero versus Void for this exact region. It is never a good idea to just Time Walk, because Poison Sting just, you know, ticks you all the time. And look at that. I just get right click. I'm actually quite happy about this right click, because, you know, maybe, you know, Void can actually get a couple of free last hits. And the reason I really want to mention that, this is how I find this word. That's like, I wasn't really sure. I'm like, okay. They just, like, they didn't really go this way. Look at that. They didn't really go this way. Look how, like, he just turns here. He knows that I picked up the rune. He doesn't even go to check here. And look at that. Do you see how he goes straight up here? And usually players just go straight up here. Why would he go there? I'm like, that's a little bit suspicious. You know, it's like he knows I'm here. So, you know, let us, you know, worst case scenario, I'm just going to waste his entries. Hopefully that turned out to be really good. And the game starts, right? Now, again, this is the lane that I feel like we're going to struggle. And, you know, there's a lot of right clicks. I'm like, okay, at this moment I was like, fuck it, you know, level 1 missed coil. If you're gonna play the heal game, we might as well just play the heal game. And I'm gonna be super sacrificial this game, like super sacrificial. It turns out to be really good, like really easy as a game. You see, that's not the greatest Abaddon game because I don't really have to dispel a lot of things. You know, sure, there is melt, there is dismember, but it's definitely a great Abaddon game because both TA and Weaver rely on bursting down heroes and then just disengaging. But if they don't really do that, then what are they gonna do? You know what I mean? So if they don't burst down, for example, like Brewmatrix is gonna use ulti. If they don't burst down my Void, Void's gonna chrono them. So they rely a lot in this mentality of, okay, let's just jump with the daggers, kill them really fast, get Daedalus. And because definitely Void, great hero versus their lineup, all he needs to do is actually be alive. So that's what I'm gonna do whole game with Brewmaster, Storm, and, you know, just keep everyone alive before they actually die. Nothing to dispel, more like Aphotic Shield is gonna be a way, you know, a tool to heal. And you see right now, I'm just like, Void doesn't really have a power spike in terms of levels, so he's gonna get level 5, 6, 7, like Draw Ranger, PA, PL, that they're gonna get level 6 and they're gonna go to jungle. So the more levels you get, just like Turtleblade, the better it is. Okay, of course, opening up the camp, really important, so I can actually have the chance, because I want the lane to be constantly under my tower, so my Void can actually free farm. Sadly, I can't really help him inside the lane. I'm actually pretending here, for example, but, you know, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna hit you. But what I'm gonna do is like drag attention and just counting on the, let's say, their foolishness to, you know, to create space. And they're going for me. I'm like, oh, I'm happy. Look, I'm Abaddon. Yeah, but honestly, there is nothing I can do. I'm like, okay. And you see how Death Coil generally is quite low mana as a spell, so I can just spam it all the time. And you see I'm just constantly buying tangos here because I'm kind of losing health. And of course, I'm not really going to go for Curse of Avernus because I doubt I'm going to run down anything with a Wisp, honestly. And of course, you know, like bullying them with Aphotic Shield and dealing, you know, double damage, for example, doesn't really make sense because it's a Wisp and, you know, they're just gonna heal back. You know, it's not like I'm gonna threaten and I'm gonna slowly build up the kill because they're just gonna slowly regen up themselves naturally. So you see, like, I'm gonna go through this replay really fast because there is actually, it's quite boring and uninteresting, but it's just a different approach. There is nothing I can do. I'm fine with that, you know, healing all the time, and we're constantly under tower, and hopefully my Void is just going to, you know, last hit, you know, and having a fine time. You know, we don't even wanna win this lane. We know that's not possible. We just don't wanna feed, you know. Pretending here a little bit, you know. I have the stick, I have the salve. Perfect. And right now I'm just going really fast, you know. They blocked my camp again. I'm blocking it again, you know. And like generally I have a lot of CS because I secured some range creeps, which is fine, but I feel like the lane, in my opinion, is going really well. The fact that I got this courier means extra 40 gold for my team. I was actually so happy. I'm like, okay, that's something. This is how desperate I am, right? And the fact that we're just going this, you know, we're just attempting to kill this Death Prophet, it's like unicorns, you know. Everybody knows that they exist, but, you know, the kill threat, but that's not gonna happen, you know. And at this moment I get boots. Why do I get boots and not more consumables? The laning stage is over, you know, like there's nothing I can do. I might as well start to transition for the mid game. There's no reason for me to get more consumables because where am I gonna use them? There's not really, you know, there's not really any interaction going on. It is just them hitting us and us trying to survive, you know. The lane is pushing, so I really don't wanna pull this camp, and I'm actually gonna show until the end because, you know, there's nothing actually we can do, but sometimes that's fine, you know. Killing my Void, and as you see, since I'm you know, I'm committed to healing. Mist Coil level 2 makes more sense. 50 more heal, it is what it is. You know, since I use the spell, I might as well just, you know, generally you want to max shield and go for something like 1-for-1 or 2-for-0 build. And of course, heal ultimate at level 6. And yeah, chilling, nothing to say here, going back and forth, and, you know, pulling single pull. Why do I single pull? I want the creep wave to be under my tower. I want to, you know, chill under tower. And I'm just trying to last hit, you know, I'm trying to take anything out, you know, I can from the laning stage. There is no reason for me. I know that, you know, my vote most likely is not really gonna die. He has his Mask of Madness. The laning stage is fine, you know, CS-wise, you know, nothing happened, but, you know, sometimes it's okay. Abaddon is a type of hero that actually can definitely get, you know, you can actually get adjusted to whatever you have. And right now, I'm like, okay, I'm done here. Mask of Madness, time for my Void to go jungle. And, you know, TA's here. I'm like, okay, maybe I just steal the creeps. You see, I'm just moving around a little bit, you know, try to screw around a little bit with the TA, you know, maybe get some XP. And this is what I'm actually doing. TA is just farming here. I'm like, okay, you know, I'm just grabbing some experience, being as annoying as I can. And generally what I'm trying to do is actually be, you know, as efficient as I can in any way I can. So I think that's quite boring, but, you know, it is what it is. Some, you know, some games you need to actually show to players to actually understand that, you know, it's not like, oh, Abaddon, I'm gonna just punch with Orb of Venom, just, you know, win 1v2. That's not the case, sadly, right? So let's jump to a position 4 game, where, you know, I had the second phase pick, and that's why I picked Abaddon, and you'll see that sometimes Abaddon in the position 4, it's not actually that bad, so let's jump into that. Let us start. That's the final game I'm gonna show, and, you know, as I told you in the very beginning, I think Abaddon is not a position 4, I think he's a position 5, and the main reason is you usually get Orb of Venom, and look so much space you have to chase enemies down, right? But right now I have second pick, right? I think it was first pick mid-patch, and then we had Dazzle. I'm like, okay, and the enemies picked supports Lion and Disruptor, and no matter what's the position 5, I get to counter them both. It's insane. Like, Abaddon just runs them down. On top of that, I have a Dazzle position 3, so he picked Dazzle. I'm like, okay, that's interesting, you know, because he actually has a lot of slow. So maybe, you know, we can just run them down. And the game starts, right? Look at that. One hit, and I really want you to show that, and this is the power of Orb of Venom. I want you to see that from the Disruptor perspective, right? Look at his movement speed, right? 295, and one hit, and it's 225. It's a lot. And then patch comes, we have poison attack, like, okay, and we get first blood quite easily, right? Okay, I got hit here. I'm like, okay, how is that possible, you know? I'm like taking again. I'm like, okay, the only way to get hit there is to have a ward here, and the game starts. And I've already committed with Curse of Aberrants, right? For us to get first blood. So, if you've seen other, I think the Dawnbreaker game, right? Dawnbreaker guide. What you want to do is like, I can't really trade inside, and the tower is next to them. I'm like, okay, you know, if I find Disruptor here, I can just get to screw up with him. But I have a Dazzle that actually did a really good job, and all of a sudden the Creep Wave is not here. The Creep Wave is here. Okay, so I'm like, okay, that's interesting. So that's an opportunity for us to be creative, and this is what I'm doing, you know. 1, 2, 3, 4. He goes for that. Hopefully he has a kinetic field level 1 for him to escape, which was really good for us because otherwise, you know, he would just Thunder Strike, and, you know, I can get to dispel it, but I need to get level 2 right now. And of course, what we want to do, the way to win offlane is push the lane and side pull. So I need to make sure that this is actually blocked, which is a little bit annoying sometimes. Yeah, getting level 2, and of course level 2 we're gonna go Aphotic Shield because we get to play versus Disruptor, right? And right now there's not much we can do. Do you see this Disruptor, what he's doing? If you play position 5, guys, please don't do that. Like, don't do that. Why would you even be there? Just be here and just hit Dazzle, who is really weak as a hero. You know what I mean? Like, right now, look at this Disruptor. He gives me game. If he actually sits next to tower and just harass Dazzle, I'm actually useless. I have nothing to do. Look at that. I'm actually having something to do in the lane. And this is actually really crucial for me. Otherwise, I honestly don't know what to do, right? Probably I'm just going to try to side pull, honestly, and just, you know, be there to protect my position 3, you know, which usually, if it's a ranged hero, you usually want to protect him, you know? And then, okay, I'm like, okay, that's fine. Just harass him. And that's the best I can do, you know? CS-wise, we're doing really good. He pulls with something, for me, I shouldn't have allowed, honestly. Because imagine, like, let's compare it with the previous example, you know, the previous game where we had the Void versus the really strong duo, Wisp Death Prophet. What we wanted is to actually the creep wave to be under tower, and this is what I shouldn't allowed actually. Okay, so that's a mistake for me that I allowed him to pull. At this moment, I use shield. Why do I use shield here? Because I want to be able to, you know, get a lot of right clicks on them. And if I dive tower and get some extra damage, I might as well use another aphotic shield. So I'm just casual chilling here. And of course, great play by Dazzle here. You know, kudos if you see the video. Good job, man. That was like insane. Look at that. Insane. I'm just going in. I'm like, okay, you know. The fun fact is that I really used center here. I'm like, okay, maybe it's here, because sometimes players just hide it here, and that's super annoying. So I'm like, after a minute, I'm like, is there a chance for it to be here? And I'm like, okay, that was a little bit damp for me. Of course, right now what we're gonna do is go Aphotic Shield. It's value for mana, so you might as well want to do that. And I see Luna, right? And right now I'm like, okay, I wanna dive this Disruptor. Doesn't work out. I'm like, you know what? You're fine 1v1. Time to chase Luna, and I'm actually super strong. And look what I'm doing. Chasing Luna, and I'm gonna show, like, for the first, like, really fast, the first 10 minutes actually show how strong he is. Of course, Queen of Pain daggered my pods, Aphotic Shield, back to Luna. Where's Luna? Chase Luna. And of course, no here. Oh, I'm like, okay, maybe we find Luna. Not here, okay. And we are going top. Why do we go top? Catapult. And I have this like, I'm like, Abaddon is a great sieger. Look at that. I actually go for level 2 Curse of Avernus here, right? Because I'm like, okay, that's interesting, right? Maybe I don't need Miscall. Maybe I can just, you know, be the frontliner, because we don't really have a frontliner that can absorb things. You know, Pudge usually wants to blink and go to the back line. If he hooks, that's great. But we need someone, you know, that can just absorb raw damage. I'm like, okay, maybe I could be the one in front of the towers and can just be approached as a 5-man. You know, maybe I can just approach this lineup as a 5-man, and it worked out really great. You know, like, he Thunder Strikes me. I use, of course, I use Aphotic Shield. If he Thunder Strikes Creep Wave, I use Aphotic Shield on the Creep Wave, so it doesn't die that fast. I'm just running this down really fast. And of course, at this moment, you know, I think we're really good. I see Luna here. Look at that, chasing him down. Be super annoying. And of course, Dagger, Thunder Strike, I don't really care. I'm actually quite tanky, right? Even if I die, just looks so much space, honestly, so much space. I think if you see net worth-wise, we're doing really well. And I had this idea, and I really want you to show in terms of items. I went for actually Boots, and then I went for Orb of Corrosion. The reason why I went for Orb of Corrosion is to actually siege. And if you see my skill build, it's quite unusual, but I felt like this was quite creative, right? I went actually for max curse here, right? If you see here, I went for max curse, and then I didn't even get, I think I get one level of Miscall at level 8, and then just went full shield, and then I just went Treads. The reason why I went Treads and Drums to actually get more right clicks really fast to actually apply the curse. And did you see that the game actually ended quite fast? I feel like, yeah, 22 minutes in, I'm like, okay, you know, if I honestly, if Dazzle were to buy mech, for example, I think it would be even faster. But yeah, like, Jack Hero told me, you know, get Liquid Fire, and you see, like, later we just like we are just in front of the tower, and we just we already took tier 2, for example, like if you see here, which I feel like it's super creative, and you know, it's doable, but I think like it's quite rare. So let's go to final thoughts about Abaddon and generally tell you my honest opinion about the hero. So let's jump into that. Okay, my final thoughts about the hero, right? We discussed a little bit about the itemization. We definitely, you know, hopefully until now, you know how to lane with Abaddon. You see that you always need to adapt, right? He's a hero that, you know, it's not really that strong in the mid game. You just follow course, shield them, heal them. In terms of itemization, he's also quite simple, but the hard thing about the hero is actually knowing when to get away, when you're strong, when you're not strong, when you can just get away with getting more right clicks. And I think the first and the second examples are actually quite instructive to actually see. My final thought is that if you're like a low rank MMR player, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4k, you know, actually 4k is not even that low, but until like, I feel like until Archon, it's definitely a hero that you will get a lot of value and definitely skyrocket your MMR. It's quite simple, a lot of fights, you don't really get to see a lot of split push, and Abaddon shines. He is a beast in fights, and definitely among the heroes that we've seen so far. Definitely the most high impactful hero. Maybe Dawnbreaker is also up there, but definitely a hero that is gonna get you out of the trend, and is quite simple to learn, like 5-10 games max, and you will actually figure out how strong you are in the laning stage. I think that's the guide. I think there are a lot of instructive things. I can show you way more games. As you've seen, I have played quite some games and with a decent win rate, and I don't really want to make the video like an hour, because most likely you will not watch it. But yeah, that's the guide. If you do enjoy, once again, this type of content, do subscribe. I'm on my way to 1K subscribers. I'm on 400 right now. It feels impossible, actually. Actually gaining MMR feels easier than actually grinding the subscribe YouTube list. So yeah, I'll see you on the next video. If you want some specific hero, just type down below GG, and I'll see you on the next video.